EastEnders hardman Phil Mitchell stunned viewers in Thursday's episode when he agreed to become a police informant, going against everything the Mitchell family stands for. An Express.co.uk theory explores why fiancé Kat Slater might not be too pleased with his choice. EastEnders gangster Phil, played by Steve McFadden, has always asserted since his 3 decades on a square that he'd sooner be dead than a grass. In fact, when his crimes finally caught up with him last year, he decided he'd live out the rest of his days behind bars rather than take up an offer to become an informant to the police, who would value his in-depth knowledge of crime in the area. After learning how son Ben Mitchell, Max Bowden, is spiraling out of control on Thursday's episode, Phil had a change of heart. Kat, Jessie Wallace, will likely be disappointed with his U-turn and might end up leaving her fiancé. Kat and Phil became an unlikely couple over the last couple of years, but their romance seemed to be going strong, with the pair agreeing to get married before Phil was caught and imprisoned. Although Kat was devastated to see Phil sent to prison for life, she never found out about his offer from the police. She also reluctantly agreed to run his dodgy businesses for him, which she has since handed over to Ben. The only person Phil told about the police offer was Sharon Watts, Letitia Dean, who was the person who warned him Ben had taken to brutally attacking lone men to try to make the streets safer for him and Callum Highway, Tony Clay. A worried Sharon didn't know what else to do other than explain to Phil how bad things had become with Ben. If Ben was in trouble, he'd know about it, Phil argued when Sharon went to visit him on Thursday's episode. "I'm not lying, Phil, I wish I was," Sharon insisted. Phil initially refused to believe her though. No, until I hear different from my associates, nothing's changing," he replied. "Kat's in way over her head," Sharon pointed out. "And he's all over the place." Phil replied, "She knew it weren't going to be easy and I trust her. She'll make it work." "You've heard about these attacks?" Sharon whispered, to which Phil asked, "Some head case doing people in?" Sharon nodded revealingly and Phil asked, "Ben? Why?" His ex explained how Ben is going on a rampage to protect himself and Callum. "Phil, he's not coping, you've got to tell Ben to back off from the businesses before he does some real damage." "And where would that leave Kat?" Phil responded, but Sharon explained she couldn't get through to Kat. "There's one way we can sort all this. Take the deal and come home," Sharon suggested. Although he initially refused, Phil later asked to speak to DCI Keeble, Alison Newman, and said he'd take up the offer. "He'll do it," he told her, "he'll inform." The officer mocked Phil for his change of heart. "I knew you'd break eventually, so much for the great Phil Mitchell, a grass after all." This means Phil will soon be back on the square, and he'll have to explain what's going on to Kat. The struggling mother is likely to be outraged that she kept the choice from her and that he wasn't willing to take it up to help her out. Kat became jealous of Sharon's closeness and history with Phil, so if she realizes he had confided in his ex about the informant offer straight away, she'll be even more furious. Furthermore, Kat already believes Phil to be a bad influence on her children. If he's going to be risking his life for the police, he could attract even more danger. It's likely Kat will decide to leave Phil, wanting to shield her family from more chaos. She will likely also feel uneasy about being with someone who helps out the police. Phil's return will probably make him the talk of the square, and if people guess what he's up to, he'll have more enemies than ever. Will Kat decide to move her family away from Phil and Walford? Perhaps she will continue living there but refuse to have anything to do with her ex. Either way, Phil is probably expecting a warm welcome and might be in for a shock.